Do you want to hear something completely insane? Most of us will probably never be able to retire. You may have seen this report published a few months ago with recommendations to the government that the age you can access your state pension will need to increase to 71. This is a really big problem, and it should be of real concern to everyone currently working in the UK and paying tax into the system. However, in this video we'll be looking at a few things that you should be doing to get ahead of this issue. And trust me, you don't want to ignore these things. It's a well-known fact that we're all living much longer, and when you look at the life expectancy numbers for the UK specifically, they've increased significantly over the years. For example, in the 1950s, the life expectancy at birth in the UK was around 66 years old for men and 71 years old for women. In 1960, that number had risen to 68 years old for men and 73 years old for women. So over the course of a decade, there was an increase in life expectancy of 2 years. Fast forward to 2022, and the life expectancy for men is now approximately 79 years, and for women it's 83 years. There are many contributing factors to this, including improvements in medical technology and healthcare, as well as considerably better living conditions than in the 1950s and 60s. But the bottom line is that it's quite a serious jump, and it's the reason why in this report it's recommended that the government moves the state pension age to 71. The pension age has actually been gradually increasing for some time now. Before 2010, women received their state pension at 60. An additional increase to 68 is anticipated to be phased in between 2044 and 2046, although more recent reviews suggest bringing this forward to 2037 or 2039. Now, this report is saying that even this won't be sufficient. And if you're born after 1970, you shouldn't expect to receive your state pension until you're 71. The state pension system as it stands relies on new taxpayers. There isn't a pot of money set aside for pensions. Instead, when you pay your taxes, you're funding the pensions of people who are retired right now. Just as a side note here, when you consider that you have to have 40 years worth of national insurance contributions to get the full state pension, you would think that you would be classed as an entitlement, right? But unfortunately, according to the Pensions Act 2014, the government officially classes the state pension as a benefit, not as an entitlement. So that's something to keep in mind. In fact, I would be curious to hear your opinion in the comments. Do you think the state pension is a benefit or an entitlement? Let me know below. However, should the pension age actually go up, considering that our life expectancy is also gradually increasing? It definitely feels like an absolute joke to work your entire life only to find out that as you approach retirement, the age at which you can start using your state pension keeps getting pushed back. All those years of paying into the system, and now you have to wait even longer to benefit from it. In the past, the state pension system wasn't in a crisis because life expectancy was lower, meaning that most people lived only a few years after retirement and drew from their state pension for a shorter period. Many people never even got to their pension age, so there was no pressure on the system. Whereas today, most people are expected to reach retirement age and are then expected to live for 20 more years or so. Therefore, the state pension has gone from being something only a few people received for a short period of time to something everyone expects to enjoy for decades, putting increasing pressure on the scheme. According to the Office for Budget Responsibility, state pension costs the government £124 billion. If we factor in healthcare costs as well, the total spend on an aging population is a huge chunk of the UK budget. In fact, spending on state pensions and other benefits for pensioners is already projected to rise by $100 billion a year by 2070, with even bigger increases in health and social care spending. Objectively speaking, is it really sustainable not to increase the state pension? Maybe not, or maybe yes. To help answer this question, one thing we need to take into account, which is actually at the root of this report, is something called Old Age Dependency Ratio, or OADR. The dependency ratio shows how many people who are above retirement age there are compared to the number of people who are working. It's not a perfect ratio, but as a whole, it aims to look at this relationship between these two groups of people. A healthy OADR implies that there are more people working than retired. But that's actually the problem here. According to this report, report, the amount of retired people is projected to keep increasing over time. This can be seen visually in this graph, with this blue line representing that rise. Therefore, if we end up in a situation where the number of working people becomes too low compared to the number of retired people, the situation may become unsustainable. This will likely mean more tax hikes and the pension age being raised, because in simple words, there just won't be enough money in the scheme to pay for everyone's retirement. Given that there is also a declining birth rate in the UK, it's no surprise that the pension crisis is looming. So the only choice we will have will be to continue moving the goalposts further and further away. Some people may say that increasing the age that you can access state pension makes complete sense, since you live longer anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's about quality of life and mobility as well, not just life expectancy. One of my viewers left a comment on another video of mine saying, "I used to work full-time for the NHS. Ask anyone who works with elderly care and patients. Your quality will severely plummet after 70 years, regardless of what anyone tells you. When you're 80, dementia, heart failure, chronic issues, diseases, etc. become the norm. You want to retire at 60, so you can at least have some sort of quality life till you're 70. At 60, you're still somewhat robust enough to chase a good standard of living. You can have some sort of fitness, you have energy and so on. Can you imagine working until 71, retiring, and then barely having the energy to actually enjoy the rest of your life? It's really scary. The stats show that 50% of people are disabled by the age 70. So while we might be living longer, for many people, these are decades of ill health. Just quickly before we move on, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button if you're getting any value from this video. Thank you. Leaving aside the state pension, the other issue here is that most people just don't save enough money. The UK's 14 million people who were born between 1965 and 1980, also known as Gen Xers, save just £200 a month into their pension pots on average. This is the next group approaching retirement age, with estimates suggesting that 1/3 of them are at high risk of retiring with insufficient income, adding further pressure on the generations following them. Let's not forget that the state pension also benefits from something called the triple lock. This means that the amount you receive will increase each year in line with the highest of one of these three measures: average wage growth, inflation, or 2.5%. This ensures that those who rely on the state pension can keep up with their cost of living expenses in real time. But it also means that the working population needs to carry the burden of the triple lock. Another problem that's on the horizon is the property rental crisis. A large part of the existing pensioners own their home, so they don't need any help with paying their rent. But if current trends keep up, the next generation of retirees will be renters, with only a privileged few owning their homes. The reality is that rents have become unaffordable for people who have jobs that were historically considered well paid. For pensioners who will have to pay rent, the impact could be significant. This could leave them with less disposable income for other essentials or enjoyment during retirement. According to this article, at age 65, only 3 to 4% of those born in the 1930s and 1940s lived in private rented housing, compared with 6% for those born in the 1950s and with what looks likely to be 10% for those born in the 1960s. This share could be even higher for younger generations, leading to a combination of a low standard of living in retirement and greater reliance on housing benefit. Now, let's be completely honest, it definitely feels like it's a bit unfair, particularly when you think about the fact that the current crop of state pensioners is being funded by us, by our tax stake. And sure, those state pensioners have also funded those who came before them. But the bottom line is that the state pension age will keep increasing. So here are a few things that you have to get right to overcome this pension problem and protect yourself from these measures and the uncertainty that exists around state pension. The reality is that we simply can't rely on the state pension for retirement. You need to plan for your retirement as if you won't receive one. How do you do that? Firstly, if you're employed, you probably have a workplace pension. What this basically means is that you put in a certain percentage of your salary and your employer also contributes a certain amount. For example, you pay 5% and in most cases your employer matches it. In fact, some companies add in even more than what you contribute. and that's basically free money. Therefore, if you aren't already enrolled into your workplace pension, make sure you opt in. The second step is to build your personal retirement path through individual investing. This can be easily done by opening a stocks and shares ISA, which will enable you to invest up to £20,000 per year completely tax-free. For example, if you invest £350 each month in a low-cost global index fund over the next 35 years, and it averages 7% annual return, your investment could grow to £634,000 by the end of that period. Therefore, these are two simple steps that you can take to secure your financial future without relying on the government. And it can definitely be done with a bit of discipline. This is particularly important because it's very easy to get caught up with life. It's now more important than ever to understand what you need to do financially. And that really means understanding the foundations, budgeting, making sure that you're using your disposable income to invest, and so on. So treat the state pension as the icing on the cake to top up your income from other sources that you should try and build throughout your working life. This way your retirement can be in your control and not in the hands of the government. Let's be honest, who actually wants to work until the state pension age anyway? We should all take steps to retire well ahead of the pension age, because the future looks risky at best. In fact, check out this video next to find out how much you need to have invested for your age to retire comfortably. See you there.